Testing. Testing. Hello. Oke, selamat malam Bapak Ibu hadirin yang terhormat. Selamat datang di Indonesia Blockchain Week 2020. Senang sekali sekarang ada saya Nelsi Hombing, sebuah kehormatan saya bisa berada dalam rangkaian acara Indonesia Blockchain Week 2020, yang dimana ini adalah rangkaian webinar yang sebenarnya dilaksanakan juga dari tahun ke tahun. Cuman di masa pandemi ini kita memang mengadakannya secara live online, ya. Terima kasih untuk Anda yang sudah bergabung di malam hari ini. Kita akan ada serangkaian acara tentunya. Kalau misalnya Bapak, Ibu, dan juga hadirin sekalian sudah mengikuti dari hari pertama, kemarin sudah ada keynote speakers, dan juga sudah ada Bapak Ferdi Hasan yang membuka acara daripada Indonesia Blockchain Week 2020 ini. Untuk malam hari ini tidak kalah menarik tentunya, dan juga ada beberapa speakers yang akan memberikan insight-nya seputar blockchain ke hadapan kita semua di kesempatan malam hari ini. Sekali lagi selamat datang dan selamat bergabung, selamat join di Indonesia Blockchain Week 2020. Sebelum kita nanti masuk ke materi yang akan dipresentasikan oleh keynote speaker kita, izinkan saya kembali mengingatkan Bapak, Ibu, dan juga hadirin sekalian, di mana kita memiliki beragam kegiatan. Salah satunya adalah nanti kita akan melakukan pengundian untuk beberapa peserta webinar yang terpilih, ya, akan mendapatkan hadiah tentunya. Jadi tungguin aja. Tapi selain kita akan memilih pemenang yang beruntung melalui melalui pengundian, nanti juga di akhir sesi daripada webinar malam hari ini kita juga akan memberikan QR code yang Bapak Ibu bisa pindai atau scan dengan gadget Bapak Ibu sekalian, ya. Kemudian Bapak Ibu dapat memberikan feedback kepada kami melalui QR code tersebut, ya, di mana nanti akan berisi pertanyaan-pertanyaan seputar acara kita malam hari ini, dan di mana tentunya nanti juga Bapak Ibu akan si QR code itu atau feedback yang Bapak Ibu berikan itu akan menjadi penanda Bapak Ibu sekalian sudah mengikuti webinar pada kesempatan malam hari ini. Dan kami harapkan Bapak Ibu juga mengikuti webinar ini. Rangkaiannya akan sangat panjang sekali sampai dengan tanggal 28 Agustus 2020, ya. Sekali lagi, selamat bergabung untuk Bapak Ibu yang mungkin baru saja join di malam hari ini. Untuk tema malam ini, ya, kita akan membahas tentang peer-to-peer lending using crypto assets. Ini sangat menarik sekali Bapak Ibu sekalian. Kalau misalnya Bapak Ibu sekalian menyimak dari kemarin dari acara pembukaan, ada beberapa speaker, lalu kemudian juga nanti akan ada keynote speaker, lalu kemudian juga nanti akan ada panel discussion, dan juga tentunya nanti kita akan membuka sesi Q&A untuk Bapak Ibu dan juga hadirin sekalian yang memiliki pertanyaan seputar peer-to-peer lending using crypto assets. Ya, oke. Kalau begitu tanpa berpanjang lebar lagi, kita akan memperkenalkan our first keynote speaker for tonight. Ya, sudah hadir di kesempatan malam hari ini bergabung bersama kita secara online. I would like to invite David Truong. Good evening, David Truong.
Hello.
Hello, David.
Hello, sorry, I'm just getting connected now. Hello, thanks for having me.
Hi, David.
Hello.
Hey, good evening. How are you?
Very good, very good. How are you?
I'm good too, thank you. But before you present your presentation for tonight, I would like to read your CV to our audience, Can?
Okay, yep, sure.
Yes. David is a developer at Aave, right? As a software engineer at Aave, David also has been around crypto since 2014, experimenting, building, and contributing to the space. His interests are wide-ranging, and wow, he has recently become a dad. Congratulations, David.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much.
All right, that was your short CV about David. Pemirsa sekalian, Bapak Ibu sekalian, sekarang kita akan mulai materi yang pertama. And now please welcome David. David, the screen is yours.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. Just waiting to be able to share the screen. But while that's happening, yeah, as was mentioned, I'm a developer at Aave, software engineer, and I've been around crypto for a while. So today I'll go over introduce the Aave protocol and explain how it works and how it fits within the DeFi space. So I'm still just waiting for the screen sharing permissions on Zoom. So I think someone needs to set me up with that before I can screen share properly. Okay, I think it's working now.
Okay,
cool. All right, perfect. Yeah, so I'm David. You can find me on Twitter, DavyT, and yeah, this will be an introduction to the Aave protocol. Okay, so to go back into history a little bit, the Aave protocol first, well, the company, the entity behind it, started off back in 2017 with a product called ETHLend. And ETHLend was based on what we call as traditional lending or traditional borrowing and lending, where it's called peer-to-peer lending. So on one side you have depositors, and depositors want a certain interest rate for a certain asset that they have, and they'll put this on the marketplace. And then at the same time, borrowers on the other side of the marketplace will pick and choose which interest rate they want and for what amount and things like that. The problem with this model is that because it was peer-to-peer, everything needed to be matched up at the right time. So for example, a depositor needed to have a certain asset that he was lending out at a certain exchange rate, and the borrower on the other side needed to be happy to accept those parameters. So with Aave, which was just released, we just went to mainnet in January, it solves this problem of peer-to-peer lending, where we've created a money market protocol. So what that means is, if we look on the left-hand side, we have depositors. So depositors at any time can deposit their funds into the Aave protocol, into this pool of funds essentially, and they earn immediate interest straight away. And on the other side, the borrowers can at any time borrow funds from the pool and choose that asset and decide whether the interest rate is good enough for them, and they can receive an instant loan if they're collateralized enough. So this solves the coincidence of once problem in lending, where there's no longer need to match up individual borrowers with individual lenders. There's generally always a pool of money there that can be accessed. So one of the special things, besides being a money market protocol, the Aave protocol, we have a multi-market strategy. So the biggest market at the moment, the Aave protocol, it's our main market, but we also have other markets as well. The first other secondary market we have is the Uniswap market. So what that means is that at the moment, for the main market, a depositor can deposit DAI and then earn interest on that DAI. For the Uniswap markets and for future markets that we'll release, there'll be other collateral types. So for the Uniswap market, a liquidity provider that's provided liquidity on Uniswap can deposit their LP tokens into the Uniswap market and use that as collateral to borrow funds as well. So this enables some really interesting and cool new use cases where you can still leverage and get a lot of value from any sort of liquidity provider tokens or really anything that can be tokenized. And we have some more announcements later on that we'll talk about new markets that we're releasing as well. And of course, there's one of the things we're famous for as well is flash loans, which I'll also go through a bit later. But before we do, the current Aave protocol, these are the main important aspects. So I've already been over the depositors on one side and the borrowers on the other side. At the same time, we have price feeds. So price feed, because it's a open source, fully decentralized protocol, we rely on a decentralized network of Oracle prices that are fed into the system. At the moment, these rely on Chainlink prices. These are fed into the system. We have third-party collateral liquidators, and these are parties that can liquidate at any time. They can liquidate underwater loans. So loans that are in danger, that may endanger the system, they get liquidated pretty quickly, and that's all automated, and it ensures the safety of the system. Then of course we have the integrated applications as well. Towards the end of this presentation, I'll go over some of the interesting use cases and other integrations that people have made already. Okay, so sort of the state of the union at the moment, sort of the status of where we're at. Aave is growing really rapidly. As I mentioned, we just went to mainnet in January. So the protocol market size is currently at, this was actually screenshotted yesterday. So it's currently, it's a bit more than, I think, $1.2 billion. So what that means is that includes both the loans and the deposits in the total protocol market size. Then you can see the graph here. This is the total value locked, the TVL, which is at 1.13 billion. So you can see here, this starts, not even in January, but you can see that there's been a steady growth in the protocol, or growth in the total value locked, and then over the recent month or two, we've seen an explosion of capital being locked into the protocol. And at the same time, this has also been reflected in the LEND token, which is our soon-to-be governance token. So the token price has also increased quite a bit, and we see this as the market having confidence in what Aave is doing, and therefore, the LEND token has become more and more valuable to the market. So I'll go over the main protocol features, and they'll have a bit of code, but I won't spend too long on the code, because I think most of you are probably more finance type people. But as mentioned, there's 4 main areas. There's the earning or depositing side, there's a borrow side, there's a credit delegation, which was recently announced, and also there's a flash loan side. So for each section, I'll explain it to varying degrees of complexity, and then hopefully it'll make sense. Before I jump into that, I forgot to mention that we have more than 19 assets on the main market at the moment. So it's most of the DeFi tokens you can either collateralize or you can borrow. And of course, we have the multi-markets, like I mentioned, the Uniswap market is one of our first ones. We have a few more coming out very soon. Okay, so for the earning side of the protocol, Aave protocol, if I was explaining it to a 5-year-old, one way I'd explain it is that you basically let other people borrow your money when you're not using it. If I was explaining to a 15-year-old, I'd say that you deposit your money and you earn immediate interest on that amount, and you can withdraw it at any time. So it's very different from a traditional bank in that at any time you can withdraw it. And if I was explaining it to a DeFi or crypto person that understands the space a bit more, I'd say that we tokenize your deposit, and we give you A tokens in return. The A tokens are one-to-one pegged to the underlying. So if you deposited 1 DAI, you'll receive 1 A DAI in return. The account holding these A tokens, they accrue interest immediately based on protocol parameters and demand. And the parameters include utilization rate. Let's say, like sometimes recently the interest rate for USDC went really high because a lot of people were borrowing those funds for various reasons. So then as a result, the interest rate for depositors shoots up really high, and that it adjusts. So from the code perspective, I don't really need to go into the details here, but the main part is at the bottom. If you're integrating this into one of your own products, it's super easy to do. At the bottom, you just essentially call our lending pool and you say deposit this asset of this amount. We also have a referral code, so you can also earn referral fee by getting more people onto the platform. And as soon as this transaction confirms, then you'll receive A tokens. I mentioned that the interest, once you deposit, is earned immediately. At the same time, one of our features is that you can also redirect the interest. So that means that the interest doesn't have to accrue directly in your current account. You can send that interest you earn to somewhere else. So there's been some interesting use cases where you can send that interest to your child's account, or you can send it to some charity, or send it to some other, any other sort of Ethereum address. So there's some pretty cool integrations and applications of that as well. The next major feature is borrowing. So hopefully quite obvious, but if I was explaining to a 5-year-old, I'd say that you can borrow money whenever you need it. If I was explaining it to a 15-year-old, I'd say that you can borrow money depending on how much you have deposited in the system, and you can pay it back at any time. And for a DeFi person, you could use your A tokens, basically the tokens that you deposited as collateral, to borrow any of our 19 supported assets at either a stable or variable interest rate. So that's one of the major features of the Aave protocol as well. We have two types of borrowing interest rates. One is stable, which of course is more stable, and some people want a more stable interest rate. Others, they don't mind a variable interest rate that has a lot of volatility. So you have that choice as well. So if you're integrating this into code, it's quite easy. You have the lending pool contract, and you just call borrow on it. And once again, the borrow function also has a referral code that you can use if you have a website or an application that's originating these borrows. And to switch between the variable interest rate and stable interest rate, it's very easy. Once again, you just call the swap borrow rate of the asset that you want to swap the rate, and then you immediately go to a different stable rate. So a good use case of this was recently the borrow rate of let's say DAI increased dramatically, but the lucky people or the smart people that had locked in a stable rate earlier on, they were still paying a very small percentage interest rate, whereas people that created new loans, they would have to pay a much higher interest rate. So this can be advantageous and help you manage your loans and things like that. The next major feature is credit delegation. So I've explained depositing. So you deposit your funds into Aave, you receive A tokens, you earn interest, and then you can also borrow money with that collateral, with the A tokens that you have in the system. With credit delegation, we can separate those two aspects. So what that means, or if I was to explain to a 5-year-old, we let other people, you can let other people borrow your money. So explain to a 15-year-old, you can deposit, you deposit to earn money on Aave, and you can earn extra interest by managing your own loans to other people. And to a DeFi person, I'd say that we give others access, you can give others access to your credit line by depositing funds on Aave, and you create what's called a credit delegation vault, and you let other people draw funds from that vault. And the enforcement of the repayment of that loan happens off-chain. So essentially with this, we've separated the act of depositing funds and borrowing funds. So if you had your own lending business offline, what you could do is you could have this credit delegation vault where your customers or users are able to draw a certain credit line, and the repayment would happen offline, right? They would pay you, and you can set your interest rates, or depending on your use case. So this creates a very large design space that could potentially expand a lot of the credit markets. So we recently did our first mainnet credit delegation with Diversify. So Diversify is a decentralized exchange. I have a link here to technical documentation if you're interested in that. But essentially what happened with Diversify is that we created an open law contract with them, which is an on-chain contract, a legally binding contract. And then once it's signed, it was executed, it calls directly our credit delegation contracts, and that creates vaults, and it gives a credit line to Diversify. So this is very interesting for exchanges because they get access to a credit line for many different assets without having necessarily to buy those assets off the market and things like that. And here's another diagram of how it works in the back end. So I won't necessarily go through all these steps, but it's like I explained, a credit delegation vault is open. The person that's the delegator, they of course deposit their funds into that credit delegation vote, and they can choose who's allowed to draw credit from that vault. Okay, so for flash loans, which is a relatively new topic and can be confusing for a few people, I'll go through a few more examples with flash loans. So if I was explaining flash loans to a 5-year-old, it basically means free money that you have to pay back nearly immediately. So not very useful for a 5-year-old. But for a 15-year-old, anyone can borrow as much as they want, as long as they pay it back within a certain time frame. And because a lot of bankers or finance people get excited about this, One way to explain it to them is that it's an unsecured fixed term loan for about 14 to 15 seconds, which is the block time of Ethereum, with a very low fixed interest rate of 0.09% that the bank can always collect at expiry. So there's essentially no risk. The bank in this context is the Ethereum virtual machine or the Aave protocol. And to explain in more detail to a DeFi person, it's an uncollateralized loan. So you don't need to have deposited anything into the system, where the amount borrowed plus a small fee must be repaid by the end of the transaction. So the caller, the person that calls the flash loan function, can execute any code they want, any action they want. And if the loan is not repaid before the end of the transaction, and then the blockchain simply reverts to the previous state. So it's like nothing ever happened if the loan is not repaid. But if the loan is repaid sufficiently, then the transaction goes through and the state of the blockchain is changed. So here's an example of a flash loan operation. So if we start from the top left, where it says start, essentially a borrower calls a flash loan function on the Aave protocol. Let's say they want to borrow DAI. The Aave protocol sends that DAI to the caller, and then, or the borrower, and then the borrower can do whatever they want with that DAI that they've flash loaned. In this case, in this diagram, you can see that they send that DAI to close down a CDP, like make a DAO vault or any other collateralized debt position. They liquidate the Ethereum or the underlying collateral. They sell that collateral on a decentralized exchange back to DAI, and they use that DAI that they just gained to repay back the flash loan debt. And then any profit that's remaining can be kept as their own, or they can send it to somewhere else. Right. So the important thing about this diagram is that everything under the purple line can get reverted if the flash loan is not paid back. And everything above the purple line is what happens on chain. So if you don't pay back the loan, then you've paid a small gas fee to do a failed transaction. But if you do pay back the loan, then the entire transaction goes through, and it's quite magical in that sense. So flash loans are a bit more complex to implement because you do need some coding ability. But these days, I'll go through one tool that allows you to use flash loans right now. But if you're implementing it in code, essentially you'd have your own smart contract, which would call the flash loan function on our lending pool. And then our lending pool would send that flash loan amount that you requested, and then it would call the execute operation. And that's where you can do anything that you want with the funds. So I'll go through some use cases here. So the diagram that I had before, where it closes down a CDP and it takes a collateral to pay back the flash loan, this is what it actually looks like on Etherscan. So Collateral Swap is a side fun project that I made, and essentially allows you to do this, where here you can see it flash loaned a DAI amount, 1,700. It used that to close down the MakerDAO vault, and then it switched to another vault. But the important part here is that it flash loaned 1,767 DAI, and it paid that back by the end of the transaction. So this operation went through quite successfully. So that's a use case, current use case of flash loans. Another use case which is quite common is what we call decentralized or Dex Arbitrage. So what that is that every time, essentially, you buy cheap on one exchange and then sell higher on another exchange. And this is, someone did this with a small amount, only 33 DAI, but still they made about, I think, 3 cents on this. And there's been cases where other people have, they flash loan $2 million and they've made $16,000 in one transaction. So there are arbitrage opportunities out there, and flash loans can play an important role in that. And I think that's really special and quite fascinating, because all these flash loans, the user at the beginning didn't need to have any capital to begin with. They just needed to code up a smart contract, and that's all they really needed. Okay, so that's the big main features of the Aave protocol. The next is what we call the Avenger family. So I'll go through a bit of some examples of applications and dApps and other companies that have built using the Aave protocol and have created their own independent companies. Because from our perspective, we're an open source decentralized protocol or money market protocol, and we do a really good job at the depositor side and the borrower side, and we want to encourage others to build on top and create their own businesses using whether it's all of Aave or some of Aave, and there's a lot of opportunity in the space. So one of the big projects is DeFiSaver.com. So they're essentially a let's call it a portfolio type app. They help you manage your DeFi positions, and the screenshot here shows something really cool where you can have a position on you can have a loan on a certain protocol, and within one transaction, DeFiSaver allow you to swap your loan to a better, like another protocol that has a cheaper interest rate. Either cheaper interest rate if it's a loan, or if you're depositing to earn money, you can swap to a higher depositor rate, right? And that's all done in one transaction. Normally, this will take many different transactions, and you have to jump between protocols. But DeFiSaver makes that really easy. They're a fully independent company, and they're building a whole business themselves out of this. They can put their own fee on top of this. It's really cool. Underlying this whole moving of positions is the Aave flash loans, of course. So I think that's a really cool use case, and they're very popular. I think they're one of the largest flash loan users actually of Aave. Next is the Fitur Combo app. They're also really cool. I mentioned that flash loans are really only for developers who can create smart contracts and code a bit. Fitur Combo is a no-code tool for flash loans and other things. So if you go to fiturcombo.app, you can essentially, it's sort of like Lego blocks where you can just put these blocks together and you say, I want to flash loan this amount and I want to sell it, buy something here and sell it here, then pay back the flash loan. And that's really cool because it really opens up the space for non-technical people or non-coders to play with flash loans. And people have done arbitrage trades successfully and made some profit just by using this tool, which I think is really, really amazing. And they're a great team building some really cool stuff as well. Next, we have Yuan Finance. So maybe you've heard of them. They've had crazy growth recently, and they are essentially a yield aggregator for all of DeFi, many different protocols. But they have really close other integrations where some of the funds that are deposited within Yuan Finance are also underlying it is the Aave protocol. So they benefit. We benefit, they can create a whole community and whole business case that's totally independent, and they do their own thing. So that's something that's been really amazing to see their growth also contribute to our growth as well. And then finally, here's another interesting one called Aave. They're not released yet, but I think they will be soon. But they're a provably rare interest-bearing NFT. So if you know CryptoKitties, they're similar to CryptoKitties, but instead, in this case, underlying the NFT is A tokens. So basically, the longer you hold your NFT, the more interest you earn. And then they're building all these other really cool features where you can customize your Aave and wear different hats and go on quests and earn experience. And they have their own token as well involved. So it's a very interesting idea. But the main part I want to highlight of this is that it's not just like DeFi and arbitrage and loaning and things like that. Something like Aave, which is for the general consumer. It's a fun game, but at the same time, it encourages them to save money. So that's a really cool use case as well.
Right,
and we have the
David. Hello, David.
Yep.
Since we have the limitation of the time, is it a
Sure.
pleasure to see your screen here? Are you going to share some screen?
Sorry?
How many screen do you have?
Oh, how many? Yeah, nearly finished.
Oh, you already finished, all right.
Nearly finished.
Okay,
yeah.
cool. This is the last screen, right?
No, a few more screens, but I'm nearly.
A few more. All right, so yeah, it's unfortunately because we have limitation time for tonight, but it's really interesting to see that the Avenger fam and so on. But anyway, David, thank you so much for sharing
Yep,
on
that's okay. My pleasure.
Indonesia Blockchain Week 2020.
Yep. Okay, excellent. Thank you for having me. And yeah, we'd love to see part of our community, and yeah, have fun with the rest of Indonesian Blockchain Week.
All right, then. Thank you so much, David, for sharing with us. Okay.
Okay,
thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Baik, Bapak Ibu sekalian dan juga hadirin yang masih setia bersama dengan kami di Indonesia Blockchain Week 2020. Setelah tadi David mempersembahkan presentasinya atau keynote-nya di kesempatan malam hari ini dalam acara webinar, ya, saya juga mengucapkan selamat datang untuk Anda yang mungkin baru saja bergabung. Selamat datang di Indonesia Blockchain Week 2020. Yang jelas rangkaian acaranya ini masih ada beberapa rangkaian acara, akan masih ada speaker dan juga akan ada panel discussion. Dan juga akan ada open session untuk Q&A, dan juga akan ada hadiah menarik untuk peserta yang beruntung. Dan juga nanti di akhir acara webinar sesi kali ini, Anda juga dapat mengisi feedback untuk acara kami, di mana itu adalah sebagai penanda bahwa Anda telah hadir di rangkaian webinar kami, persembahan dari Tokocrypto. Tanpa berpanjang lebar lagi, kita akan langsung masuk ke keynote speaker yang kedua. Langsung saja, I would like to invite Justin Sun. Hello, Justin. Hello, Justin.
Hello.
Hi, Justin. All right, then. Hello, good evening.
Hello.
It's nice to see you. All right. Before you present your keynote, allow me to introduce your CV to our audience.
Yes.
Justin Sun is a CEO and founder from Tron, right? And also Call Me or Paywo app.
Yeah.
Did I spell it correctly?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. And Tron is the world top 10 crypto network and also Web 4.0 blockchain that platform. And also Paywo is one of the largest voice live streaming apps in China. And also Justin is the CEO of BitTorrent, the leader in peer-to-peer software and services. Justin was named 2017 Forbes 30 Under 30 Asia. Wow. And also Forbes 30 Under 30 China from 2015 to 2017. That's cool, man. Yeah. And also you are the only millennial that graduated from Hupan University and is a proceeds of Chinese tycoon Jack Ma, chairman of the Alibaba Group. And also you obtained a master's degree from the University of Pennsylvania. After Justin received a bachelor from Peking University. That was really awesome. All right, then. Without taking any longer, Justin, the screen is yours.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Thank you. I will share my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yes, can, Justin.
Yeah, sure. I will get started my presentation. So I think today's presentation, I'm gonna share about Tron's future and about like Tron DeFi visions for all our audience in Indonesia. I know Indonesia has been like a very large Tron community. I have seen a lot of the market demands from the Indonesia recently. For example, in the local Indonesia trading exchange, Indodex, we have seen Just, which is the DeFi project on Tron, and also Tron itself is always trading at top 3, the most popular cryptocurrency in Indonesia market. So definitely, I believe lots of the people want to know about Tron and the vision of Tron, and also about Just and BTT, Wing, and other Tron ecosystem token as well. To start with my and Tron story. So recently, Tron just upgrade to 4.0. So what's that mean? It means Tron evolved from a DApp platform, which is a decentralized application platform, to a DeFi platform. I believe Tron is right now the project has the most of the potential to surpass the Ethereum in the this next year for DeFi project, because Tron is 1,000 times faster than the Ethereum, and the gas fee on Tron is minimum. I believe some of you may already try out like Uniswap and lots of the DeFi projects on Ethereum. I think those projects are amazing. The only problem is the gas fee is crazy high, and also it takes like an hour to process all the transaction. But on Tron, you don't have like any of these trouble at all. You can process your transaction with an instant settlement and with a much cheaper fee on Ethereum. Ethereum today may cost you like a couple $100, but in Tron is less than 10 cents. So I think this is like the huge advantage of the Tron protocol. And let's go through it one by one. So Tron just like upgrade to 4.0, which means Tron has a privacy feature, which will keep the privacy for the users. And also the token, they can disable those privacy features if they want to be regulated and compliant in certain jurisdiction. And also, of course, we introduced the new T-pose mechanism, which increase our speed 20 times faster than what we had before. And also, we introduced TICP, is a cross-chain solution, just like Cosmos and Polkadot. And also, we introduced our enterprise blockchain solution. Just look back a little bit about Tron's history, how Tron get there. So we started our Tron 1.0 in 2018, March 31st. And then we introduced our first virtual machine in May 25th. And of course, we launched our mainnet in May 31st, and also migrate from Ethereum to a mainnet in June 25th. And in August 30th, we launched Odyssey 3.0, which means Tron already become one of the largest decentralized protocol in the world. And of course, it's just like happened a month ago, we upgrade to 4.0. So these days, Tron have 27 super representatives, all elected by the community with 26 billion TRX. So they are democratically elected, and they execute the governance power for the Tron holders in the Tron community. And also the first industry Tron dominates is DApp industry. So nowadays, you can see the Q1 volume of the Tron ecosystem is over 400 million US dollars. And also at the same time, we also have the most active users in the industry compared to Ethereum and EOS. And let's see like one of the example, like Wink. Wink is one of the most popular DApp on Tron platform. Collaborate with Binance to launch. This is also one of the Binance Launchpad project, and has over 200K active users. And also Wink yesterday, I believe, just collaborate with Poloniex to bring on more crypto assets onto the platform. So basically, you can use any TRX, any kind of the cryptocurrency. It's over 100 cryptocurrency to play the games on Wink platform. And also, Tron is supported by Samsung. In the old Samsung devices, also available, I think, in Indonesia, you can use Samsung device to store your TRX and all the TRC10 and the TRC20 tokens. And also Samsung Galaxy Store supported all the Tron dApps in the ecosystem. We also will collaborate with more partners like Samsung to support TRX and TRC10 and 20 tokens. And also we have a very huge social media group. So we have my Twitter, Justin Tron, has 2.1 million followers. And my Facebook has over 6 million followers. It's the largest in the industry. And also I have over 500K users in Chinese Weibo. And also we have pulled lots of the resources on developer support. We have Tron Core and Developer Conference each month. And also we have hold the Nitron Summit, which we invited Kobe Bryant, the famous basketball star. And this is also the first cryptocurrency project he has get interested in. And also, of course, we also hold the Tron 4.0 Summit last month. And also, last year, Tron entering the fully alliance collaboration with Poloniex. And now TRX is one of the platform token on Poloniex. You can use TRX to get discount in Poloniex and trading. And also at the same time, you can use TRX as the exclusive token for the fundraising on the Poloniex launch base. And of course, recently Poloniex just launched futures with 100 leverage on Poloniex. And also we collaborate with lots of the exchange like Binance, Huobi on TRX as a leading currency on those platform. And also all the TRX ecosystem project has listed on those main exchange as well. And also we have seen a dramatic stable coin growth in Tron ecosystem. So today Tron have over 4.3 billion USDT Tron on the platform, which occupies 32% of all the USDT TRC20, supported by all the main exchange in the world. We have basically the same size of the USDT compared to the Ethereum. This year, we will reach 5 billion US dollars. And here we go. It's about Just. I know lots of the people in Indonesia has invested lots of the money in Just and got a very good return. So we collaborate with Poloniex in May. And at that time, the price was 0.002 US dollars. The price has gone up 40 times since launch in 3 months. And also Just has locked up over 1 billion TRX in the Just network. And we will launch more DeFi projects on the Just platform with Just Swap, Just Land, and Just BTC. And we will also launch the Tron oracles on Just platform. And also, of course, we are talking to a lot of the top projects, top level projects on Ethereum. We want to bring them on Tron network as well, because they can better serve their customer by a much faster and sufficient network. Yesterday, we just launched Just Swap. So actually, I didn't sleep a lot yesterday because I also spent a lot of the time on the launch of Just Network, Just Swap. So Just Swap is the first AMM exchange on Tron platform, you can swap TRX to any kind of the token on the Tron ecosystem, which is extremely successful. And if you want to try, you can go to the justswap.org to try out the product. This is pretty amazing. And just in the first hours, we got over 1 million trading volume with 1.7 million liquidity. And I believe today we will break at least $10 million before 10 o'clock. So before 11 o'clock. So 11 o'clock will be like 24 hours after just launch. And also, we acquired BitTorrent in 2018. BitTorrent these days recently just passed 2 billion in stores. And I believe we have lots of the users in Indonesia as well. We also have the BTT token listed in Indonesia. Today, we have over 23 million daily active users, over 100 million monthly active users. And in the BTT ecosystem, we have BitTorrent file system, DLive, BitTorrent Speed, and Tron TV, 4 products. BTFS is a decentralized storage platform. Just Network, DLive, and all the Tron project, lots of the Tron project is building on the BTFS network to provide a decentralized way to running the network. So basically, you don't need to storage your files in a centralized services. It's all stored in the decentralized encrypted computer around the globe, which is reliable, cheaper, and also is decentralized. Nobody can get access to your data. And also, of course, BTT, you can also contribute your storage in the ecosystem to get BTT reward. BTT is trading in over 100 exchange in the world. And also, BitTorrent Speed is a way you can spend BTT to accelerate your downloads. And also at the same time, you can help to upload the files and get BTT reward. The BitTorrent Speed MAU has already exceeding 44 million users. And we will target it 50 million DAU this year. And also, we introduced DLive in 2018. Right now, we have over 7 million monthly active users. And this is the #2 live streaming platform in Turkey. And also, we see lots of the traffic from Brazil, India, and the United States. And of course, lots of people know me because I win the auction of Warren Buffett lunch, about 4.5 million US. And I invited my friends from Binance, Huobi, eToro, and Litecoin founder Charlie Lee to the lunch. And we built the bridge between the traditional investor and cryptocurrency. And we are hoping to build this kind of the bridge between the institutional investor and the cryptocurrency industry. That's it's all my presentation. And thank you. And I hope you can spend more time on the Tron ecosystem to see how we become the most has the most potential blockchain platform in the world.
All right, then. Thank you so much, Justin, for sharing with us. But I would like to ask Justin to stay for a little bit because we are going to go to panel discussion.
Yes.
Baik, Bapak Ibu dan juga hadirin sekalian, kita sekarang akan memasuki panel diskusi yang di kesempatan malam hari ini akan dipimpin secara spesial oleh Mr. Wei Chu from Binance as a CFO. Hi, Mr. Wei Chu. Okay. Wei serves as CFO at Binance, where he is responsible for growing the larger crypto ecosystem and also working with government bodies and financial institutions on the expansions of compliant fiat gateways around the world. Wei brings over 15 years of the executive and financial management experience, scaling technology, internet and media companies internationally. And previously, Wei served as CFO of Zaopin.com and Charm Communications and helped to lead these companies through their IPO listings on the NYSE and also Nasdaq. And in addition, Wei orchestrated the landmark acquisition of LGBTQ+ social networking platform, Grindr, where he currently serves as a vice chairman. Wei began his career at Goldman Sachs Hong Kong in investment banking and later moved to its Asian Special Situations Group. Wei graduated from Harvard University with bachelor degree in economics and East Asian studies. Are we already have Wei Cho in here? Hello.
Yes. Hey there.
Hello.
Hey there.
Good evening. How are you, Wei Cho?
Doing
Good?
well. Glad to be here.
Well.
Yeah.
All right, then. Before we start the panel discussion, let me introduce another panelist for tonight. We also have Brian Condenanza here. Hello, Brian.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you, Brian?
I'm good. Very excited to be here. Very excited to be part of the
All right, then. Before you start the panel discussion, allow me to read your CV first. Brian Condenanza is a CTO from Bidayo, a decentralized finance startup, and you are a blockchain and fintech researcher, right? With
Yes.
extensive knowledge and experience in different crypto assets and also disruptive technologies. All right, Brian. And for the next panelist, we have Stanley Kuleshov. Good evening, Stanley. Okay, Stanley Kuleshov is from Aave, founder and also CEO, an open source and non-custodial money market protocol to earn interest and also deposits and borrow assets. Stanley was studying law at the University of Helsinki when he first got into Ethereum, and also he started exploring how it could impact the traditional financial system. In 2017, Stanley released Atlan, one of the first DeFi dApps ever. Since then, he has made it his mission to create tools for an open, transparent, and equitable financial ecosystem through Aave protocol. Hi, Stanley.
Hey, thanks for having me here.
It was nice to see you here tonight, right? Are you ready for the panel discussion, yeah?
Yeah, yes,
All right,
I am.
then. Okay, cool. After Stanley, we also have John Izaguirre. Hello, John. John is from Ontology.
Hey, buddy.
Ecosystem lead. Hi. John Izaguirre is a Europe ecosystem lead at Ontology, the high performance open source blockchain specializing in digital identity and also data, right? And John has a vast array of experience in collaborating with multiple stakeholders to determine audience interest and also develop strategic go-to-market communication plans that align with the company's creative business priorities and also initiatives. Hello, John, good evening.
Good evening, buddy. How are you? Let me just sign these. This is part of the deal. Thank you very much. No problem. Lovely to be here, buddy. No problem. Lovely to be here with you all. It's a true pleasure.
All right, then. It's a pleasure to having you here also. We are going to do our panel discussion. Also, we have Visak on the screen. Good evening, Visak.
Hey, hello. Great to be here. Very happy to be talking to an Indonesian audience.
Yes, it was a pleasure to having you here. But before we go to the panel discussion, allow me to read your CV first. Visak is a co-founder from Cryptonomic. Since 2017, Visak has been a Cryptonomic, a New York-based technology company focused on the intersection of finance and also blockchain technology. At Cryptonomic, Visak works on foundational foundational tooling for the Tezos blockchain, right? As well as enterprise finance projects that seeking to build the next generation of capital market. And also previously, after studying machine learning at Columbia University, Fisak worked for over a decade at the investment banks JP Morgan and Bear Stearns on credit, derivatives risk, and also pricing. Ladies and gentlemen, all of the panelists is already here. So we are going to do some panel discussion here for tonight. And I would like to please Mr. Wei to lead the discussion.
Sure. Hey, everybody. I would like to sort of say thank you to Tokocrypto and for bringing sort of this panel, and then also for allowing me to be the moderator for this panel, and say hello to all of the friends of Binance and of Tokocrypto in Indonesia. I think one of the key points I think sort of basically ripping through our ecosystem is actually DeFi. And then at the core of it is actually lending using crypto assets. Especially, I think one of the sort of, I would say the panaceas, which is basically allowing for peer-to-peer lending through the usage of crypto assets. So I'll jump in here and I'll just sort of pose a general question to all of the panelists here, given that you know, everyone here sort of has some touch points in terms of lending and borrowing, which is basically lending and borrowing is currently one of the most popular sort of DeFi applications in the world right now. And I just want to understand sort of, you know, from each one of your perspectives, why is it so? And then why is it important to have sort of lending and borrowing to be a key feature within sort of within the DeFi ecosystem? And I'll kick that off to John first.
Thank you, buddy. Appreciate it very much indeed. And yeah, same like you said before, thank you to Tokocrypto for the invitation and everyone in Indonesia. Loving that country. Been traveling there for the last 10 years. A big fan. Well, you know, it's interesting how the blockchain ecosystem has been developing actually in the last year, and the business models surrounding token economics, in this case P2P and lending, is definitely, I would say, the smartest way to improve the ecosystem itself and kind of gain the right adoption, but also penetrate the financial ecosystem on a more mature way. From a personal perspective, I think this is whatsoever. And secondly, from a professional perspective, ontology is building what we call a layer 2 protection or development for the DeFi ecosystem. So we have recently rolled out our dashboard called UID. Ontology's UID is the dashboard where end users are able to see where their crypto assets are, and regardless of their wallets and regardless of the exchanges where they have purchased it. So they're able to see their whole portfolio investment, manipulate it, play with it, but also obtain what we believe is very important in this case is a score. So you obtain a financial score based on your gains, but also your losses. And this is interesting because it takes you out a bit of the blockchain bubble or the lending or P2P bubble, but actually brings you the practicality to what we call the traditional financial market world, right? So this is nonstop, and this is only going to continue growing and expanding. And I think we're just going to see even more tools and more players in the ecosystem, basically on a daily basis.
Sure. Thanks, John. Stanley, I'll go to you then. I think for Aave, you know, for your protocol, sort of like, how are you guys playing a role in sort of facilitating this lending boom as part of this sort of bigger DeFi boom?
Yeah, I think, well, I've always thought about that kind of like lending and borrowing being one of the baseline of any kind of like financial ecosystem. if you look at traditional finance, pretty much the whole financial system is based on some sort of receivables or IOUs. And that kind of like creates a layer of different kinds of things that you could actually build on top. And that is what we're seeing now in the current state of DeFi, that we see lending protocols such as Aave, for example, and even in one-way maker as well, in the self-lending system, where you could actually either create receivables or obligations, and you can create different kinds of products on top of that, where you facilitate this kind of like a base layer. But it wasn't always like this. When we started with ETH Lend, there wasn't any kind of like a lending facility or stable coins, and even the kind of like collateral assets that were they were pretty low liquid. So we started with a peer-to-peer lending model. The idea was pretty much to kind of ensure that we don't pull the risk, because back then DeFi wasn't as optimistic building as it's today. I mean, you pretty much have to build code that is immutable and kind of like imagine kind of worst case scenarios, black swan events, and keep those close to your mind when you're building things. But I think what happened is that when, for example, we saw things like Maker coming up with stable coins, first, of course, on Ethereum, that was the first protocol with smart contracts, and that is why we started there. And then you had stuff like Uniswap, or the automated market makers and protocols, and then Compound, and then we came to improve the space a bit with the Aave protocol again. So we were able to move into a systemic models where you pull the risk and kind of like make the liquidity and the supply readily available. So I think the space has evolved quite a lot, with very like primitive proof of concept models to something that is actually becoming a protocol business model, in the sense that you have actual incentives to use this financial ecosystem. I mean, if you can get yield on your stable coins far better than, for example, you would get something in your bank, that's pretty amazing. And that is also what we're doing at Aave, that we have so-called interest-bearing stable coins. Basically, when you deposit, let's say, USDT into the protocol, you get a USDT, which basically algorithmically grows in your wallet balance. So we program it that way, and that gives kind of a permissionless savings account accessible anywhere. And our goal is basically to see like how we could cross this liquidity into different blockchain and utilize, because we kind of don't believe that the liquidity will be in one place. We definitely believe like of the internet of smart contracts, but we think it's going to be consisting of multiple networks connecting to each other and bridging that liquidity. And I think that's how the space will evolve as well.
Awesome, thanks. I'll kick the question over to I think to Brian. Brian, can you talk a little bit about sort of your guys' work on sort of lending, and then also sort of the contribution to DeFi as a whole?
Yes. Yeah, so I think it is, like Stanley said, it was very important to have that kind of, opportunity for people to basically, make more money. And that's what, really gets people in that sense, that they want to make sort of a passive income. And if they can make better returns that choose a bank account, for example, that's, something very attractive for people. And I think that, in the short term, I see that as an opportunity for people. And I see that as one of the things that people care the most. And then in other aspects to it, I mean, there are so many layers of what people like about it and what people are interested on in terms of DeFi and, crypto lending. And then I also think, for example, in the short term, we see that mostly is a lot of speculation in terms of the price. You know, a lot of the crypto lending is also coming from traders themselves, and you know, so it kind of builds on there. And I think that, you know, for example, we see that in the short term. I think in the long term there are so many more opportunities for that, and you know, they have different implications. One thing that I see, for example, I was born in Argentina, so I know, you know, a lot about the financial system there and how everything works. And for example, there, you know, I don't want to make it too long, but people are able to buy only $200 per month there. And now, you know, many people are starting using crypto just as a way to get more into, you know, different financial opportunities, such as, for example, buying DAI, you know, as is equivalent to, you know, US dollars basically. And they know that the government can take it from them. They know that, you know, they hold it. And, you know, those are people that aren't interested in the normal crypto systems, in the normal crypto market, and they may not invest in Ethereum, Bitcoin, or anything like that, but they just want access to US dollars, for example. So I see that as more, you know, long term, I see, you know, we'll have more of that probably. And, you know, it's just not a tech factor, I guess. It's more like, you know, in getting to those places where regulations may slow adoption of some things or may limit their citizens to, you know, do other things. Because, for example, if you have peer-to-peer lending, for example, in, you know, in one country, and you have the technology to do so, then you can later, you know, send it to a different country, or you know, create a system or a similar model to, you know, have it in a different country. But if you have, you know, regulations that don't allow you to do so, then, you know, you have to move into other things. And I think crypto really solves that problem. And I also think it's a very good mission for it. And so I see that, you know, as a more long-term use for it.
Cool. Thanks, Brian. Vishak, what do you think?
Yeah, so let's look at P2P lending in
Any
general.
thoughts?
Yeah, so especially an audience in Indonesia can appreciate the utility of P2P lending. And in many similar countries, so I'm originally from India, there are a lot of markets that are underserved, and they're quite large. So there is this big opportunity in traditional finance. People have taken advantage of this. I think the P2P lending market in Indonesia conventionally is doing really well. What's also interesting is I saw in the Financial Times that in spite of this global pandemic, the default rates for peer-to-peer lending loans has not actually gone up that much. So we know there's a global appetite for peer-to-peer lending. It's fairly well established. So one of the questions we should ask is, how are blockchains useful here? And through the success of DeFi, we can see that we can build financial platforms that are open, they're transparent, and they're composable. And these are not necessarily the case with more conventional lending platforms that are out, not all of them. So there's a big opportunity to combine these two efforts that are going on for tremendous benefit to a lot of people. As someone pointed out, these are not people who are necessarily interested in specifically Bitcoin or Ethereum. They have real world problems that need to be solved. And one of the things that's especially interesting is, as Stanley pointed out, peer-to-peer lending on DeFi, it creates this pervasive global base layer, right, on which peer-to-peer trades are happening, peer-to-peer lending is happening. From an institutional point of view, I think a lot of people are watching this with great interest, because there is a potential to build a more stable, resilient, and inclusive financial system, because at an institutional level, we can create high-level trades, we can compose this lending activity into more institutional grade trades that ultimately add even more liquidity to the system. So I think this is a very exciting time in P2P lending, and blockchain technology is about to sort of turbocharge it.
Sure. Thanks, Vishal. Justin, I'll come to you then, just sort of give your sort of general comment about crypto lending, and then why it's as important for this to basically drive the DeFi ecosystem?
Sure. I think we have seen a lot of the demand from crypto lending these days. Most of the use case is from yield farming. As we know, yield farming basically is a new way of mining cryptocurrency. So in the past, we mining the cryptocurrency just by a mining machine, right? So we can use a mining machine to mine Bitcoin. But these days, we have seen a lot of the projects on Ethereum. So you can deposit like Ethereum or any kind of the cryptocurrency to mine like other cryptocurrency, right? So we have seen like a compound, like a Ethereum, and lots of the like recently, lots of the cryptocurrency also get listed on Binance as well. It's all adopt this kind of the strategy. So for example, if I'm like one of the users, I want to mine those cryptocurrency, because those cryptocurrency, when they listed on exchange, is extremely expensive. So basically I can borrow, lend cryptocurrency on every platform, like other lending platform on Ethereum. And then basically the only thing I need to pay out is the interest. But I can mine those cryptocurrency, for example, like compound at the beginning of the mining. I can get a lot of compound and I sell all the compound. Is basically it's a profit. So, and we have seen a lot of other like mining project these days. Yarn, like recently, is also very popular too. Even though I mean the price go down like 99% after 24 hours. But I think you will continue to see lots of the like this kind of the yield farming project will started in the protocol. So that's why I believe lending is definitely like a way you can arbitrage a lot on this kind of the new way to get other cryptocurrency. So that's like the first stage I see those like cryptocurrency lending, where is the demand comes from. And then I think the second stage, after we build out this kind of the markets, because we get from zero, right, from this kind of the a little bit volatility and speculative demands, right? We go from 0 to like $1 billion or something, even like around like below 2 billion. I think this is basically supported by the this kind of the first stage demands. And then second stage, I think we will see a lot of the traditional investor or traditional P2P like lending, what we talk about, they will start to get interested, because if they can borrow like the USDT or other stable coin or other cryptocurrency in the industry, they can do in some traditional business as well. So that's why I believe this is the stage we have like some like outside of the cryptocurrency space, they will have demands. And also I believe right now there is a big like scalability bottleneck for the Ethereum network, which will hold up all the demands, because right now Ethereum network is on is already on the full speed right now, right? Every day Ethereum is very busy, the network is extremely busy. It costs you like hundreds of dollars to do every transaction. So that's why I believe Tron strategy on DeFi will also be very successful. Not like advertised here. It's my genuine belief. So I think if lots of the developers, they can build their DeFi products on Tron protocol, they will see a huge amount of the demand. We launched Just Network, Just Swap yesterday. We already seen after less than 20 hours, the trading volume is above 10 million US dollars, 5% of Uniswap did. but this is only the first 20 hours, right? So I think in the first month, we might even catch up to the Union Swap because the Tron don't have this kind of the scalability problem, which means like even like tens of millions of the people, if they get into this ecosystem for the crypto lending and also trading, they will get their returns, which I'm very bullish about the cryptocurrency market right now. I believe at the end of this year, we may even see like Bitcoin, Ethereum, and I hope Tron will bring like the break the all-time high in 2017, because I believe this time DeFi is more powerful than ICO before, because ICO is not like as complicated as today. So it's only like pump and dump. But today you will see a lot very sophisticated financial product is built on the smart contract, which I believe we will have like bull markets for quite a long time. Wei, you are on mute.
Okay, great. So I think that actually brings us to the second point, which is basically a combination. I think sort of we've been hit by I would say like the perfect storm for DeFi and for crypto lending and for sort of just general P2P lending to take off, because we live in sort of like a yield hungry world, and we have a ton of liquidity, and sort of the returns that cash is getting in the bank is pretty much zero, and in Europe it's negative. So I think that's sort of like what I call the push factor, and basically pushing traditional money and searching for yield. And I think with the concept of staking, lending, with all of these sort of different protocols offering that, and then also I think with sort of the smart protocols that are actually coming out, enabling these type of sort of lending contracts, we're basically sort of I kind of tend to agree with Justin, sort of at this crossroads, or sort of the second, I would say the second biggest use case of smart contracts and sort of blockchain generally. I see sort of the fundraising aspects of it. I think now we're basically moving into sort of the lending aspects of it, and then which is actually an even better use case, because it's sort of just traditionally you sign a contract, and then as long as the counterparty honors that contract, then you basically 3 months, 6 months, whatever the time limit is. So that brings sort of to us to sort of the second question is, in the traditional world, lending always carries risks, right? If you're a borrower, if the borrower is unable to repay that there's a risk. In this world, this sort of DeFi world, what are the risks? What are sort of the sort of as just mentioned again, right? That the risk is actually in the coding, right? Sort of there's fundamental risk, I think, in this new platform. So I kind of want to hear you guys just think about what are some of the risks in this new way to lend and borrow, and maybe what you can do, what you guys are doing in your own sort of job, or in your own chain, or in your own protocol, that's sort of helping to address some of that risk. And I'll start with Stanley. I'll start with you first this time.
Yeah, yeah. Well, the kind of like the current state of DeFi has been pretty much of the over collateralized loans, and basically it's pretty common that you liquidate the collateral. So when you deposit something into these protocols and you draw credit, that deposit is basically what you leave there in case of as a value in case of it decreases. So at Aave, we have a risk framework and internal risk stream that assess each and every collateral token, and basically what could be added into the protocol, because every token, or we actually say assets, they bear their own kind of risks. It might be counterparty risk, which is risk of, for example, if there is custodial elements there. It might be market risk, if the asset is volatile, or liquidity risk in the sense that how quickly you can liquidate in case of a scenario where markets are going down in a cascading events. So that's like the kind of thing. If you have assets in the protocol that are less riskier, I think the overall systemic risk is pretty okay. The most difficult part is when we have this kind of events like Black Thursday, which we saw, for example, with Maker and the failed liquidations. And I think kind of like those events will come further, and it's just about basically how you will handle the aftermath and what kind of pre-work you do and what kind of risk framework you are applying. In terms of like credit risk, I think in the DeFi field, we haven't seen yet any substantial amount of kind of like under collateralized loan or loans against actual credit. We have started at Aave a initiative called credit delegation, which basically means if you are depositing stable coins into the protocol, you earn interest, and you don't draw the credit line there, you could actually delegate that credit line to a person that you trust, or someone you want to make an agreement and delegate, and they can draw the credit line and pay more interest to you, or to a smart contract that basically makes predefined functions and can execute in a certain way that the credit risk is pretty much limited, which we can see, for example, delegating credit directly to yield farming vaults. So that's an interesting way of kind of like also enable using DeFi as a source of sourcing liquidity. So I could imagine someone would deposit something like WBTC, ETH, or even in the Tron chain TRX, and basically let someone draw stable coins and convert them into, let's say, USD, and basically source that capital into traditional finance, where you have traditional money lenders basically initiating loans, whether peer-to-peer or might be invoice financing or any other kind of working capital. So that is like something that we are trying to work and kind of like expand the reach of DeFi in terms of like creating credit risk and using like credit-based loans. But in general, the whole space is based on values that are inside of assets. And I think the more we see tokenization and tokenization of real assets and more value coming into the space, you can use those as a collateral. But it's nice to also like have this kind of like trust networks built on top, where you could actually reutilize the value that is locked in smart contracts, because locking value into smart contract is one of the most capital inefficient things to do. I mean, you're basically piling up capital there to sleep, and kind of like the right thing to do is to think like how you could reutilize that capital via flash loans, interest-bearing tokens, or credit delegation, or whatever the innovation is. So I'm pretty bullish to see like this kind of stuff continuing to develop.
Yeah, thanks, Dan. Brian, I'll send it to you here. Just sort of like, what do you guys see? What do you see as some of the risk in this as this sort of crypto lending ecosystem is building up, and what is ByDAO? What are you guys doing to sort of help to address that risk?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think there are a few risks that Stanley mentioned as well. In terms of the counterparty risk, for example, and how some coins being used as collateral, and having things in the market that move sometimes too fast. I think that that can be a big issue in the kind of short term. And one thing, for example, that I am a little kind of worried about is that DeFi kind of keeps growing so fast that it kind of start getting like a DeFi bubble. I think that for example, that could be a risk in terms of the growth, because we haven't seen so much growth in the DeFi space. I thought I think it's good that it grows fast, but it's also kind of worrying, and it makes you think if it's all well established, and if it's I mean, it's worth it I think in the long term, but it's also kind of risky about it. So I think there is a lot of risk in there. And crypto lending, in my opinion, it is it's not the, it's not the safest thing, but I think it's, it's a very good risk in terms of the returns you can get. And, for many people it's, a great thing to get passive income. In the last few weeks, I've been getting, many people that tell me, oh, how can I do it? Because I hear that some people, they get very good returns from it, and, how it works. And I think so many people are getting, so interested on it. So, it's very exciting. And I think it's also, in terms of usability, that people, that creates another risk for people, because now people have to, some people that may not use crypto, they now have to use the private keys and everything like that. They have to store it well. And people don't know how to start using them, basically, sometimes. And many people don't want to use it because they are like, oh, I don't want to put money on it. Then, I forget about it. I can use it. So I really, I may not use it like that. But I think that's, in part because it's very much some kind of the first, steps onto the space. And so, as you get, more things that are easy to use, as Stanley say, for example, interest-bearing tokens, that's a very kind of easy way for people to use it to, get interest and, being a participant in the space. And it's not, so hard, I would say, such as other things that, for example, your farming may be more interesting for people, because they may get more returns, but it's also, definitely more risky. So I think it's also, very good to balance your risk and what you want to get and what you could lose as well. But I think it's, it's a very good opportunity for people, I would say right now. I'm very bullish in the space.
Yeah, Vishak, I'll move the question around a little bit. I think we got about 10 minutes left for this panel before we open up for some question for the participants. You mentioned a really interesting point about P2P lending, which is actually a huge industry, I think, around the world, at least in Asia. I think in Indonesia, India, even to a lot of extent in China for the last 5 to 10 years. And I think that has taken place, I think, within the traditional world. And obviously that system is set up such that in a way that is kind of like decentralized in a way. But I think in a certain way, once it gets to a certain sort of scale, there is going to be a significant amount of centralization involved in it. And what ends up happening is you basically, governments or regulations take over because to manage it or to take the care of the abuse. But sort of, within this sort of, evolution of that's actually taking place on smart protocols now for P2P lending, what do you see that we can do better versus sort of the traditional, versus sort of things that have been taking place in the traditional world?
Yeah, you're definitely right. This is growing tremendously, and eventually there will be a lot of centralization because that's how things tend to scale, and there will be all kinds of rules, regulations, and laws. But ultimately, on blockchains, innovation is permissionless, and there's always going to be applications. Unless you can shut down individual blockchains, you're going to have a really hard time. It's like the government trying to kill all the cockroaches with a single hammer, right? It's just not going to happen. So ultimately, it is incumbent upon the people who are releasing the protocols to put out a safe product, and there will always be technical risk. So in addition to what the other panelists have said, I think we focus a lot on the Tezos blockchain, for example. There, we're able to use things like formal verification. We're able to use functional programming, on-chain governance. These mitigate technology risk a lot. But ultimately, as you've observed, even in the conventional P2P lending use case, there is a degree of decentralization. There's going to be some amount of self-regulation that will be really important. And after this period of churn, I think everyone's going to be more educated, and they're going to lean more towards tools and platforms that have proven themselves to be technically sufficient.
Thank you for that. And Justin, I'll go to you, John, before I jump to you last. Justin, I'll go to you in terms of what do you think the role of sort of decentralized lenders or decentralized platforms or centralized versus sort of say centralized platforms play in this sort of lending boom?
Yeah, sure. First of all, I'm super bullish about DeFi and the decentralized lenders, and also this kind of the decentralized platform, because of two reasons. The first reasons is, as we know, like traditional finance world is highly regulated. So basically, any kind of, for example, if you want to get like your mortgage, right, you need to like spend on even like a month or something to get approval by the banks and all the regulators. You know, you need to get your collateral like reviewed by lots of the expert. They need to put a price tag on your collateral. So this kind of the process is extremely painful. And also the same time, it's not like 24/7. So if you go to the DeFi platform, you can have 24/7, and also it's deregulated. You can get like whatever you want. You can borrow land, put a collateral, get stable coin. You can pay back loan. You can do I just see like in the RV platform, right? You can do a lot of even the arbitrage in like 15 seconds, right? It's all those like actions is impossible in the traditional finance sector. And also at the same time, the regulation puts all the financial services by the boundary of the countries. So for example, if I'm like someone from the Indonesia, and if I want to borrow some money from random people in South Africa, is impossible in the traditional industry. Even the wire takes like 2 days. And also people don't have like a unified standards about how much this worth, right? What's the price we're gonna refer to? This kind of lots of the very complicated standard problem they need to solve before they can make a deal between one another. So that's why, I mean, this is the first time like the world is united, like everybody trading on the same platform. They can do a lot of the business with another counterparties, just trusted on the mass, you know, just trust on the smart contract platform. So that's why I believe this is amazing, and this gonna dramatically increase the volume of the DeFi on the blockchain platform, because it's bring all the liquidity together and without like a boundary, without like regulation. A lot of the things have been holding up the traditional finance world. So that's why I'm super bullish about that. And again, I think the only bottleneck here is the scalability problem of Ethereum. So it's kind of like holding up I think the pie of the DeFi here. So I think if like a Tron, like other competitive protocol in the future, if they can offer like more scalability on the blockchain, we can consume like no matter like how much liquidity we can have. Because right now today, for example, if you want to pull like $10 billion with a huge amount of the transaction in the Ethereum network, Ethereum just can't consume those transactions and the money, right? So if we can have like a high scalability protocol like Tron, right, we can consume like even $100 billion put into the platform. I think definitely gonna open like a much bigger window, like opportunity, like for everyone in the industry. And I believe like in like a short period of time, even 1 year or 3 years, in some like certain amount of the sector, we can even see the DeFi surpass some like middle level of the country. For example, like Belgium, even like Switzerland, those kind of the in terms of the volume and also like the traffic.
And John, I'll jump to you then, to sort of like to go back to sort of like, you know, one key word I think that Justin mentioned is sort of like the roadblocks, right? What are sort of the barrier, or what are some to sort of for us to really, you know, to get the volumes in, right? Like, what do you see as that? And then, you know, what are you guys doing in ontology to maybe hope to address that as well?
Right. So as Brian mentioned before, and Justin as well, so there are two things. There are two main things which I do not only see in blockchain or crypto lending, but in new technologies in general, and that's the lack of education and the lack of smart regulation. So they interconnect each other very well, because the political parties, the people regulating the national or supranational economy, they do not know actually how to even purchase a BTC, right? So, however, these humans are entitled to tell blockchain protocols or exchanges how to rule or how to face the new industry without the right knowledge. So that's the first roadblock that you have in there, just a lack of education. And that translates itself into the lack of smart regulation. So it's funny to see how, just a quick example, in the country where I'm based, which is Germany, they are taking some steps towards a greener ecosystem. However, the theories that they're implementing for crypto or for crypto lending or smart contracts in general are kind of laughable, are kind of the 20th century based economy. However, if you talk to them about, hey, you know, smart contracts might do transactions better, easier, faster, and reliable, and so on, they do not comprehend it. So education and lack of smart regulation, this is affecting all new technologies in general. So I believe that our responsibility as professionals working in this space is to actually educate people, but also to keep the right tools and I would say create a very accessible and usable platform for people in general to learn, educate themselves. And this should be our goal. In all honesty, some people might hate me when I say this, but the goal is not to get rich. The goal overall is not to be successful economically speaking. The goal in here for everyone in the crypto scene, in the blockchain scene, is to actually change the things and change the system for good. And you're only going to achieve that with the right amount of education, and that will translate hopefully in a better regulated and smart capacity industry. And this is what I fight for every day, and this is what ontology also believes in. And we try to do our best on educating people at universities, doing workshops, running workshops, talking to people in the ecosystem to learn what they're doing. And we don't believe in competition. We believe in cooperation. And that's the reason why I work for that blockchain protocol. Otherwise, I wouldn't be there. So that's what I believe, and that's what we aim for, man.
That's actually interesting, because what ends up happening, I think, in terms of, you know, regulation, is that technology always runs ahead of regulation, and then what for me, for I think everyone in this sector, I think we all understand sort of the need for regulation, but we also sort of understand the role that regulation plays, especially in terms of creating, or what was the other way around, sort of we understand the regulation in order so that we can build things around regulation. And that's sort of how this whole DeFi thing came out. And then it came out, I mean, one of the things that I talk about is that actually this whole DeFi boom came out of the US, just because it's the most regulated system in the world, but then the laws are written this way. So you basically just build your DeFi system around it, right? So, and then now it's basically, now sort of, DeFi boom, the primary drivers of it is basically through USDC, which is a regulated stablecoin that's run by Coinbase, right? Sort of that's been the biggest, I would say, beneficiary. And then the Ethereum network, they have, it comes out of consensus, right? Which has this whole, I wouldn't want to say, has this whole, a group advocacies, right, around regulation, but then they're the biggest beneficiary of this whole DeFi boom. So and it's always a it cuts both ways per se. But what I want to get back actually is sort of get back to the subject matter of this panel, which is basically the role that crypto lending is going to be playing in terms of P2P, which is basically driving essentially for people that are putting money into it, is basically people are looking to earn passive income for their from their capital base, right? And I think that's one of the sort of the essential drivers in sort of in P2P boom, P2P lending around the world. Sort of I have $100, I have $5,000, whatever it is, I'm looking to earn passive income on it, right? And I think one of the things that we do in our industry is basically how do we drive these sort of essentially mining type of activity or staking type of activity towards it. So sort of like just name one thing that you guys are doing on today or tomorrow. Just one thing that you're doing to basically to help to drive mass adoption, right? To help more people to earn passive income based on sort of this DeFi wave that's happening. I'll start again, Brian. I'll start with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think like you say, a little about in terms of regulations, like you say, technology comes first, and then regulations can try to follow, and most of the time you have people that don't get it, that are ending up making the laws. So I think that's a big problem. For example, what we are doing in terms of that, we are reaching out to so many public policy groups, and we try to work with them. And it's amazing, the kind of answer we get from them. They want to work with us, and from all over the world, pretty much. We're mostly focused on Europe, but we've been reaching out to many groups in Europe and also in other parts of the world, and they all want to work with us, and kind of being the bridge between the blockchain industry and kind of the regulators, so that we make sure that the DeFi space is it's not so much regulated in a bad way. So I think for example, that is in the kind of the bigger picture kind of terms. And then in terms of users, then it's all about user experience, I think. And that's how you get more users, basically, to get a very good interface that people can use, that people can really understand how to use it. And that also, I think sometimes it's all a problem about the crypto space, but I always seen it like that. In my whole my whole crypto experience, I would say, and I've been in crypto quite some time. When there were like 10 coins or 20 coins or something like that. And what I've seen is like always, crypto people sometimes make things too complicated, and just really hard for people to understand how it works, or sometimes for a very kind of simple concept, I have to read like a lot of stuff, and I'm like, what? Oh, it was just that, it wasn't that complicated actually. And so I think that for many users, it really makes things complicated. And so I think there's a lot of things that we have to work on that as the space to grow. I think it's really important that, in terms of education as well. I think it's part of the industry responsibility to, really educate people in those things. I think it's also, so much we can do for it, and also as a growing company. But I think it's important to have those things in factor, and the main factor is growth. As long as you are growing, and that that the space is growing, I think we're in a very good path.
Yep. I'll rephrase it. So we're doing a quick fire. So just name one thing that you guys are doing to basically basically bring this passive income type from the DeFi boom to sort of to the masses and to get adoption. Vishak?
Yeah, so the regulation agenda is driven very often by the incumbents. So in all our enterprise finance engagements, we align as much as possible to the way public blockchains work, so that these large incumbents, large financial services companies are very comfortable with how all these innovations in the public blockchain space are happening. And hopefully that will make them more amenable to encouraging positive regulations.
Cool. And Justin, just name one thing that you guys are doing to push for mass adoption.
Yeah, sure. I think for us, we doing the most is for the mass adoption is BitTorrent. So BitTorrent today have over 2 billion in stores around the globe, and we introduced, of course, along with Binance on the first ever IEO, right, last year about BTT. So right now BTT is introducing to 44 million people around the globe. And we are plan to have 50 million people this year. I think everybody can, from using uTorrent and BitTorrent clients, they can get access to cryptocurrency, and also they can learn about to spend cryptocurrency to accelerate the download of their files in the BitTorrent network. And I think this is only the first step. They learn about crypto, and I believe this year we're going to introduce more. For example, we will also introducing DeFi and all this kind of the services to the BitTorrent users as well. So we also take the BTT only has the first step. We're going to reach to mass audience, and also for this year we will try to introduce more cryptocurrency use case to the mass audience as well.
Awesome, thanks, Justin. John, one thing you guys are doing for to get mass adoption.
Right. Cool. So as some people know, Ontology main core business will be decentralized identity, right? So it's our core business vertical. And based on that, we're building actually two main things for the DeFi space. Just keep in mind, we're not a lending protocol like the amazing Stanley. So what we're trying to build is just another layer on that ecosystem. And for that, we have built the O score or Ontology score. You're able to reach out on our website on.io or into the Ontology app, which is called Onto. So basically based on your lending or based on the amount of crypto assets, your decentralized identity will generate a score, right? And this is interesting because it will allow even more transparency to the ecosystem. So you're not going to be only a code, or you're not going to be person X and Y. You will have a name, you will share the data that you want to share, that you wish to share. But also it's going to rank you. It's gonna kind of bring what the traditional financial market does in terms of a ranking, an average ranking. How good is your credit score, right? And the second thing we're building is a UID, which is just a dashboard platform where you can observe all of your crypto assets and you have access to it as well, regardless of the wallets where you have it. So it's just the accessibility, the usability, but also just generating the score and protecting your data using smart contracts. No rocket science in there. So yeah, we count on you, Stanley. So please keep going. Yeah, that's it. That's what we're working on it, man.
Yeah. Last but not least, Stanley, back to you. Sort of like, what's one thing that you guys are doing to drive for mass adoption?
Yeah, there's pretty much kind of like two approaches that we have. The very basic one that we are definitely using is the interest-bearing tokens, because it's a nice way of actually having a deposit account without actually going into the user interface and depositing funds. So basically you could buy, let's say, ADI, AUSDC, anywhere where there's a marketplace for it, and you actually have this interest-bearing account. So that's one of the things we're doing. But more importantly, we're focusing a lot on security. So that's like very important, especially like during the times when things are happening very, very quickly. And substantially now we have quite a lot of amount of funds locked in DeFi, and building DeFi is really difficult from the security perspective, because we kind of are humans who are building, and the code is public and basically open to unlimited time of exploiting and finding attack vectors. So one of the things we're trying to do is we're trying to provide more security into the protocol, basically through our token economics. But also the idea there is that if we get more and more kind of like reputation and trust into DeFi space, and we kind of have a way of handling similar events that we saw in Black Thursday, and kind of like DeFi can revive itself, even if there is this kind of like a shortfall of it. We're able to onboard more and more institutionals into the space and get adoption that way. So we're kind of trying to approach it in two-folded way. We are looking to provide more security and get more traditionals involved, and then of course, like from the retail side, we are trying to basically get more and more people involved. And now it's kind of like difficult in the sense that the idea for me for DeFi has always been like democratizing the finance, and basically now with the current gas costs, basically you kind of like lose the ability to earn almost anything with the gas cost, and also you can't estimate what you could actually like what will be the gas cost in 3 or 6 months from now when you need to withdraw your savings. And that is very problematic for kind of like democratizing and bringing finance to people that do not have equal opportunity in places where their banking system sucks. And that's kind of like what we are now challenged in our space. So actually, because of the craze that we have now, the DeFi space become a bit more of the game of the riches, whereas we kind of started to actually on the reverse idea where we want to bring this financial system in permissionless manner to everyone. And now that what we're trying to do is we're kind of like trying to scale in different kinds of blockchain technologies and experiment things, and try to kind of like bring the DeFi into places where you have like small cost matter, and that's like what's important now on the retail side.
Excellent. Okay, cool. I think that we basically have sort of into the last part of our panel. Thank you guys for your time and your patience. We basically have 3 main questions from the audience. The first question is actually sort of I want to tie it up into one question. The 2 questions comes from Dimas, which asked, what are the advantages of P2P in the future development of crypto? And then the second question from Adil, which is P2P lending in crypto minimal risk of loss compared to other investments? So I actually want to pose that question, I think, to Stanley, because I think you mentioned earlier that sort of within sort of your protocol, you have the ability to lock up assets, right? Which is a key element in terms of securing the collateral, right, for the lending. I think in this case, it's sort of like what are the advantages of I would say crypto lending in advocating for and pushing for P2P, and then how is that risk what are some of the risk in that compared to say other types of investments?
Well, yeah, I think in terms of lending, like there's a couple of ways to structure the lending business, and it's basically the peer-to-peer model, where basically you order match the borrowers and lenders. That's what we were doing during ETHLend. And then you have a model where you just basically pull the liquidity and it's readily available for the borrowers. So it brings a lot of efficiencies, and in one way it brings some systemic risk, but also kind of it brings a way to manage the risk easier. So kind of like you don't have to sorry about the noises. So you don't have to worry about too much on the kind of like who are you funding and do that manual work. But I think peer-to-peer is a very good way of doing proof of concepts and try different kinds of things, or bring kind of lending markets into places where they don't exist that much, or it's difficult to draw liquidity there. That is why we started actually in the beginning with the peer-to-peer model, because no lending existed on chain, and that was like a way to structure it and kind of like divide the risk and let all the borrowers, actually all the lenders, to decide on the risks that they're subscribing to, and let them handle their own kind of like a business one-on-one basis. And it worked pretty well. but it's also kind of like difficult for a retailer who just wants to deposit to kind of assess all the creditworthiness, the collateral values, and everything. It's easier them to just trust a system that everyone uses. So both models have ups and downs when it comes to like structuring a lending business.
Okay, awesome. And then sort of the last question is kind of a funny question, and then it's actually aimed directly at Justin, which is it's from Milana, and she says, "Hey Justin, we all know TRX is launching Tron 4.0 this year, but I cannot even heard of Tron 3.0 or 2.0. Can you explain this to us?"
Sure. I just explained in the presentation before. So I think everybody know Tron 4.0 is because I think Tron is doing like much better, right? It's much more famous in the industry now. We did have like 1.0, 2.0, and 3.0, but at that time, I mean, maybe nobody pay attention to us at all, you know. So basically, I think in the 2018 March 31st, we launched the Tron 1.0 called Exados. This is the first version of the Tron testnet. So we launched this basically in March 31st. And then in the May 31st, we launched Tron 2.0. So Tron 2.0 is also the version when we launched the mainnet in June 25th. So we launched the mainnet. And also in 2018 August 30th, we launched Odyssey 3.0. So this is Tron 3.0. Basically, this is the mainnet version we used just before the 4.0 for almost 1.5 years. So we prepare for 1.5 years to deliver Tron 4.0 just in the July 7th, as you know.
Yeah. All right. That's it. So thank you guys. We finished our panel right on time. So thank you guys for.
I also just mentioned a little bit because some people just believe like, oh, sure. Yeah, sure. That's fine. Yeah.
We gotta leave time for now for the lottery. So thank you guys for that. Thank you very much. Thank you, John. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Vikaj. Thank you, Stanley, and thank you, Justin.
Thank you.
Thanks all.
Bye.
Thanks, guys. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, Wei, Brian, Stanley, John, and also Visat. Thanks for sharing with us tonight. And sekarang sudah selesai sesi daripada tanya jawab dan juga panel diskusi di Indonesia Blockchain Week 2020 di seri kedua kali ini. Ini adalah mungkin saat yang ditunggu-tunggu di mana kita akan memilih lucky draw untuk 5 orang peserta yang beruntung, ya kan kita kasih hadiah masing-masing senilai atau sebesar $20. Kira-kira siapakah di antara Bapak Ibu atau peserta sekalian yang beruntung di kesempatan malam hari ini? Let's check it out. Kita akan putar melalui Wheel of Fortune. Nanti akan ketahuan siapa yang akan menjadi pemenang untuk mendapatkan hadiah masing-masing $20. Dan nanti akan muncul di layar Bapak Ibu sekalian, itu adalah alamat email yang Bapak Ibu peserta daftarkan untuk mengikuti webinar series Indonesia Blockchain Week 2020. Oke, kita akan mulai mencari siapakah peserta pertama yang beruntung. Silahkan Wheel of Fortune untuk diputar dalam 3, 2, 1. Kira-kira siapakah? Saya akan bilang stop. Yeay, selamat untuk Raffi.raihanrizal@yahoo.co.id sebagai pemenang beruntung kita di kesempatan malam hari ini yang pertama. Kita akan cari untuk pemenang yang kedua. Wheel of Fortune. 3, 2, 1. Saya akan bilang stop. Oke. Siapakah pemenang kedua? Oke, selamat untuk sky71fire@gmail.com. Sekarang kita akan mencari pemenang yang beruntung ketiga. Untuk mendapatkan $20 menggunakan Wheel of Fortune. Stop. Oke. Dan pemenang ketiga adalah selamat untuk btchr@gmail.com ya. Masih 2 hadiah tersisa. Kira-kira siapakah yang beruntung? Apakah Anda yang sudah setia dari tadi? Kita akan putar Wheel of Fortune. Silakan diputar. Stop. Dan yang menjadi pemenang keempat yang beruntung di malam hari ini, selamat untuk, wow, saya jadi lapar nih, tahu petis 2kw@gmail.com. Selamat. Sekarang kita akan cari satu pemenang terakhir ya yang beruntung malam hari ini akan mendapatkan $20. Kita akan putar Wheel of Fortune. Berdoa nih, deg-degan nih biasa yang terakhir, apakah Anda yang dapat Bapak Ibu sekalian ya. Stop. Oke, selamat untuk peter@morris.io. Selamat untuk 5 pemenang yang sudah beruntung mendapatkan hadiah di kesempatan malam hari ini. Terima kasih banyak untuk Anda yang sudah mengikuti webinar ini dari jam 7 malam tadi sampai dengan sekarang. Tapi yang jelas setelah selesai webinar kali ini, kami mohon kesediaannya untuk mengisi kuesioner atau survei mengenai acara ini dengan men-scan QR Code yang akan tampil di layar gadget Anda. Ya, sekali lagi Anda boleh men-scan atau memindai QR Code yang sudah kami sediakan yang akan tampil di layar gadget Anda, ya, untuk Anda boleh mengisi survei mengenai rangkaian acara yang akan kami selenggarakan sampai dengan tanggal 28 Agustus 2020 nanti. Dan juga sekedar mengingatkan untuk next webinar itu akan diadakan pada tanggal 21 Agustus dengan temanya adalah Earning Passive Income through Crypto Staking and also Saving. Terima kasih banyak untuk semua yang sudah ikut serta, untuk panelis dan juga keynote speaker. Kita ketemu lagi di next webinar. Kalau gitu, Nelsi Ombing pamit. Have a hardworking night. Bye.